staff have any objections to this?
No objection whatsoever.
Then I will accept the city's file as being introduced into evidence as the city's composite exhibit number 1. Do you have anything else, Ms. Cohen?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Newton, do you have any questions of Ms. Cohen from her presentation?
I do not.
You'll have the opportunity to make any statement in a few
Right.
minutes, but do you have any cross-examination questions of her at this time?
No, none whatsoever. She's accurately stated the history of the situation.
Good. No other witnesses present on behalf of the city?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a presentation that you'd like to make?
Yes, very briefly. First of all, I want to mention about the...
And again, for the record, if you state your full name and repeat, indicate that you have been sworn in.
Virgil Miller Newton is my secular name. My religious name is Father Cassian Newton. I have been sworn in. I reside at 13253 Boca Ciega Avenue here in Madeira Beach. I've been a city resident for about 25 years. For the record, with reference to the couple going up without a permit, it was a gift from one of our donors, because Christ at the Sea Foundation is a religious, not-for-profit corporation under the state of Florida, and it's tax exempt and tax deductible under the IRS. And it is a religious residence with a private chapel. We called the building department and asked about the erection of a small cupola. And they said, well, how much is it worth? And we said about $700. And they said, well, no problem. And I think they thought that it was a private residence as opposed to technically a commercial organization or a religious one. And so we thought we were in the framework of the law. And I would point out that the sign...
Is this recently that it's been re-erected?
No. This was the first time that provoked the issue.
All right.
And I served as the chairman of the Board of Adjustment here, Mr. Denhart, for about 15 years. And so I'm conscious of the rules. At any rate, we had gotten permits for a number of other things that we've done there. We have a sign on the front for which we got a permit, an engineering design and permit. We had some electrical rewiring done for which we got a permit. We had to rerun water because of holes in the pipe under the sidewalk and we got a permit. So we've been mindful of following the rules, and this was one that was a misunderstanding with the county. The second thing I want to point out is that the issue of a private chapel has already been resolved by those previous, the special exception use matters. So as far as I know, that's not up for issue tonight. What is up for issue tonight is our request to reinstall the cupola, the 4.5-foot cupola. And in deference to the concern for the residential area, we have asked to do it at the rear of the chapel instead of the front where it was before. I would like to enter into the record, if I may, a photograph of what the cupola looked like. And you can see it's fairly small. It's a Mediterranean-style cupola, yes.
That's already in evidence,
okay.
Included in
Good.
the city's file.
I didn't realize that. Okay. And it is not specifically a church or religious cupola. You can see this kind of cupola on homes in the Mediterranean countries like Spain and Italy and Greece. It was given by our largest donor, and when we traded it off, to resolve the issue, the city and the community, there were some serious hurt feelings. And I've waited 5 years for the community to see that we have not been a problem, in the community. And in order to try to remedy the hurt feelings, I put a request through to allow us to install that cupola at the rear of the chapel. Now, I want to point out that there are other cupolas in this residential area. Let me see if I can find that page here. There are residential cupolas at 13117 Boca Ciega Avenue with the wind vane. And the base of that cupola is wider than ours by several feet, although it is not as tall. There is a cupola at 13009 Boca Ciega Avenue. And there is a cupola in the shape of a lighthouse on 13353 2nd Street East, which is 2 blocks away from this property. That cupola was a lighthouse on a bed and breakfast. which incidentally is grandfathered in, does not fit the current R2 zoning. And that cupola is approximately 5 times the size of the one that we wish to install. There are also gargoyles on another house, and I would point out that in the next adjacent residential district, there is the Church by the Sea, which is a large church institution, Protestant institution with a large cupola. What we are asking simply is to be allowed the same rights and privileges of other properties in the area with reference to cupolas. I am not wed to having the cross on top of it. If it serves your purpose to only allow us to have the cupola itself, that's perfectly fine with me. It would solve my problem with the hurt feelings of my largest donor. Incidentally, I need to respond to one other issue. The letter about us having a, quote, big gathering, it was an anniversary party of one of the residents of the
facility. As I understand it, the issues before me are changing the outward appearance of
That's
the
correct.
building, the keeping consistent with the uses that were granted initially when the special exception was awarded, or as I might modify it this time.
That's correct.
And the issue tonight applies to the cupola and the outward appearance of the building, and it's not whether you can have a chapel there, it's not whether you can have people coming and going. Am I correct?
It is correct. The limits of the seating, the traffic, the parking, those have all been spelled out in the original orders.
I mean, those may be issues to some of the neighbors, to some of the people, but they're frankly just not issues to me tonight because that's not what's before me.
If I may point out that in that code enforcement hearing, where the special master then realized he thought that everything had been thrown up at once. The sign on the front of the building, there is a cross approximately this high on the front of the chapel facing the street, small Byzantine wooden cross, similar color to the building. And there's a small cross over the entrance to the walkway. And when he recognized that those had been in existence 4 or 5 years, he, in the compromise we reached, taking down the cupola on the front, allowed those to remain. And the sign on the front of the building is a long, narrow sign that identifies the property as Christ at the Sea Foundation, which it does identify as a religious property. And so it's not exactly like we're asking to put something up where there is no, where there's no indication of the fact that this is a religious property.
The other symbols that you're discussing, they were pre-existing Mr. Langford's orders?
That's correct. And Mr. Langford acknowledged those in the revised order, and that they were okay. If I may point out one additional thing. While the area is designated R2, there are a number of properties in this area that are not R2 that were grandfathered in. The Lighthouse Bed and Breakfast, which I understand is apartments now. There's a set of tourist cottages called Changing Tides of Madeira Beach, about 2 blocks away. There's another set of tourist cottages across the street from that called Island Paradise. There is, next door to my home, a 4-apartment building, and there are a number of other 4- and 6-apartment buildings in the district. And so strictly speaking, it is not simply a single family or double family district.
But that is what it's zoned as right now, and
That's
that
correct.
is what it's been zoned as at all times during these procedures, correct?
That is correct.
So those other structures may be previously existing grandfathered uses or structures or both, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
There you go.
And